morning. I'd like to call this meeting of the Hampton Bays Water District Commissioners to order on this 10th day of February, 2022. Please rise if you're able and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. All right, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Supervisor Schneiderman.
Here.
Councilwoman McNamara.
Here.
Councilman Martell.
Here.
Councilman Bouvier.
Here.
Councilman Scavone.
All right, so we're all here. And we are also joined by a number of individuals, including James Cappers, who's the Assistant Superintendent there at the Hampton Bays Water District, Don Collins from H2M, Chris Weber from H2M. So we're going to get started. Before I hand things off to James a little bit, as you guys are all aware, we do have one new member of the town board. So Councilwoman McNamara. So this is a good opportunity to meet Councilwoman McNamara, but also really for everybody's benefit, including the public. So Hampton Bays is the only area where we have a water utility that the town runs. Everywhere else, people are either on private wells or on Suffolk County Water Authority. The Hampton Bays area, the town historically has been providing water service through a tax district. And so we do these meetings, I think, what is it, twice a year?
3 times.
Something like that, twice a year, 4 times a year? Twice a year. And then we do it also as necessary, you know, and our job really is one of oversight, one of, you know, making sure that our customers are satisfied, that they have a good source of, you know, clean, healthy drinking water. You know, it's always challenging. It's a lot of customers there. I think around 7,000 or so customers. There's been challenges in the past with water pressure, or discolored water, emerging contaminants that are of you know, health concern. So we've all sort of had to educate ourselves a lot on these issues, and we've invested substantially in the infrastructure there, which we felt was not up to date. We've been bringing it up to date. We've done a lot of projects, including tower resurfacing, iron manganese filtration, new valves and connectors, and, you know, all kinds of things, you know, cleaning wellheads, all kinds of things that we've been doing to try to better manage the system, including carbon filtration at one of the fields to remove those contaminants I mentioned. So we've been very busy with this district. I think we've come an awful long way in the last few years in terms of improving our level of service and customer satisfaction. And we still have some major capital projects ahead, including the canal crossing and the Shinnecock Bay crossing. So with that, I will turn things over to, I think, James and John. You guys are going to update us to where we stand, how things are going, and we'll have plenty of time for the board to ask questions. And we can also we'll have a public portion too. So let me just check on the agenda where the public portion goes. We have
now.
It's sort of now, but it would make more sense to do the public portion after you guys have maybe said some things, and they'll do some public portion, and then we can come back and say some additional things. I'm not sure there's going to be anybody from the public with questions, but why don't we start with more of sort of introductory remarks. So James, can you take it from here?
Sure, thank you.
First and foremost, I'd like to thank you, Supervisor Schneiderman, and the Board of Water Commissioners for your support, especially through COVID and piloting us through a difficult time. Congratulations to Councilman Schiavone on your reelection, Supervisor Schneiderman on your reelection, and welcome Councilwoman McNamara to the Board of Water Commissioners. So our bread and butter I'll go over first is our pumping, basically our cash registers for the Hampton Bays Water District. 2020 we pumped 2021 we pumped total 1.1 billion. Last year 2020 1.1, 2021 was 1.13. So we saw roughly a 2% increase in pumpage, and that's been our steady increase year for year. I mean, if you look at the past 10 years, we had some wonky numbers, but it seems like a 2% increase every year on the demand of our system. With that, we had a 20% increase on our revenue that came in. That was mainly due to our rate increases. I believe it was a 20% increase last year. I don't know if Len can confirm that. I don't know if he's on, but I believe we had a 10% in the beginning and then 10% in the middle of the year that brought us to that 20% increase. So like Supervisor Schneiderman said, we've had a lot of projects going on in the last 18 months, and we have a lot coming up within the next, I would say 6 months, especially that directional drill project that we need to have done by March of this year. We'll get a little bit into that on the status of that project. I know we have some resolutions that passed and contracts are going out and award letters and such, but I'll let John, once we get to that point, and Chris kind of go over that. But this is kind of a groundbreaking. We do have our iron treatment facility up and running. I sent out an email, I believe it was in November. We sent out an email to the board, just letting them know that we are fully functional, removing all iron and manganese out of plant number 4. Just to kind of give a brief background for Councilwoman McNamara, this field has been an issue aesthetically for the last, as far as I can remember, since like 1996. We've had a lot of discoloration falls, yellow water, orange water, mainly from this plant. This plant has exceeded the secondary contaminant level of 0.3 of iron. We were upwards around the 1.0. That being difficult because if we go over that 1.0 between iron and manganese, we won't be able to sequester. So we sequester with a reagent. It's PO4, polyorthophosphate. And what that does is it takes the iron out of suspension and kind of hides it, so you won't be able to see it. Anything over that 1.0, the Board of Health would not let us sequester. Therefore, the visibility of the discoloration would be even worse. So the board acted very quickly, like we said, to get this iron and manganese treatment in. And right now, currently, it is running in lead and filtering out the contaminants. With that, coinciding with that was our tank that resurfacing. We had a lot of delamination on the inside of our tank when it was put in. I believe it was installed in 2006, 2007, and the paint on the inside, according to H2M's inspections, was failing. And they believe that once it was coated in the beginning, it wasn't coated right with the temperatures, humidity, and so forth. But working through the delays, obviously we started the project right smack in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic. We experienced a lot of delays with this project, but H2M kicked it in high gear, got us to use the tank through our peak demand system, peak demand throughout the system, and we're able to utilize the 1 million gallon storage that tank does.
James, has the exterior been done on that tank yet, or just the interior?
Yeah, I believe, John, correct me, it's 100% complete.
Yes, good morning. The tank is 100% complete. I'm not sure, James, is it online or it's able to go online as soon as we want to get to go online?
Correct.
The only thing is remaining is they have some material to move from site.
And you were satisfied with the workmanship there, John?
Yes. Yep. We had our little, I'm not going to say it was without bumps, but we got over those bumps, and I think we have a good job out there, something that's going to last us, 15 to 20 years.
Okay, and is there like a warranty period that we need to like really do some extra checking over the first few months, or?
The contractor and H2M will visit the tank on a 1 year anniversary, scheduled for probably April 2023, and any deficiencies noted there will be addressed by the contractor, and then it's ours. But we do have a year maintenance, and then right at the end of the maintenance, we do a walkthrough, an inspection, and have them touch up anything they need to.
Okay, and in terms of the iron manganese filtration, maybe this is more a question for James, but it sounds like it's working well. Any issues with the public, or have they noticed a difference? Has it changed the taste of the water? Is there anything to report in terms of our customers there?
Well, it's just the quality of water that's going to be leaving that field is going to be pretty much perfect. There's no contaminants or anything.
Oh, have we started using it yet?
Yes, it's been in lead since November. We have used it since November. We had to shut it down intermittently in between that time period for some painting and stuff, but it has been our lead well since end of November, beginning of December. We got it running before the cold because, like we said in the beginning, those tanks are on the exterior of the building, 2 vessels that we have. So we have to run that well throughout the winter and the freezing temperatures. We have had no issues since, not very minor stuff, but no issues of running. It's kind of hard to tell with the public feedback yet because we really need that well to be utilized in our peak demand with the dirty water. But kind of piggybacking off of that dirty water, we did a really vigorous flushing in October. Once plant 4 went down to complete the iron treatment and those wells were shut off, we really hit the system hard to try to rid the system of any remaining iron that could have been settled down to the bottom of the mains due to the plant number 4. We moved a lot of water, and it tells by our percentage of pumped to percentage of billed, because I think that number is about 88% this year. But that goes to show how much water we move throughout Hampton Bay to try to rid the system of the dirty water, yellow water, or brown water, so to speak, this year. So now, hopefully, with that system up and running, when all wells are up and running, we should have little to no complaints. There still will be, it's a water system. It's island-wide, it's countrywide, that dirty water happens. It happens with surges, it happens with water hammers, it happens with breaks. That stirs up the system. Iron stuff breaks off the inside of mains, and hence you get the dirty water. But pumping dirty water will be not a problem again.
And there's two wells at Field 4, right? Are they both running?
They both can run, but 4-1 has been our lead. There's 4-1 and 4-2. 4-2 is our submersible. 4-1 is our vertical turbine. We've been utilizing just 4-1 for now. We switch it. This one, 4-1 will run for a month. Then we'll switch 4-2 to be in lead to kind of alternate the wells to give them some work.
Okay, so they're both operable. Okay. So
I had a question about the million-gallon tank earlier before we get too far from it. John, you said that most of it is complete. Does that include the piping, the massive piping system, and the new building coming? There's a new building to be built, as well as the piping system underneath the ground. Is that complete as well?
For the tank rehab is 100% or 99% complete. Just have to remove it. And then for the Plant 4 building, on the line with us is my colleague Chris Weber. He's kind of been instrumental in helping the district and I get that plant on the line, and I'll let him talk about the status of that plant site, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Is that what you were asking about, Tommy John, the building for the iron filtration?
Well, Sears Bellows, on Bellows Pond Road, excuse me, the million-gallon tank. There's also a significant amount of pretty major piping to be done underneath the ground. I was just asking if that portion of the capital project was complete as well.
I believe, and good morning, everyone. I believe that that portion would be tied to that Plant 4 project that James had kind of alluded to with the iron treatment plant. So at this point, we're 99% complete with everything. The only thing remaining is some miscellaneous punch list items that each contractor has been given. So at this point, we're pushing them to complete that punch list work, by the end of the month, ideally, so that we can move forwards towards closing out this project.
Did you guys, did you fix the safety cable over there? Maybe this question for John. That I know that's something that came up on a report.
Yep, we fixed the safety cable. We put a non-freeze vent in and upgraded one of the manways. But yeah, the safety cable's fixed.
Okay, so let's go back maybe to James and let him continue on with his overview.
Yeah, I just want to say, anybody has any questions of what I brought up already? It's a lot of information to absorb. So without moving too far ahead, there's some things that I brought up. If anybody has any questions now.
James?
Yeah.
Or John, I've been mentioning a lot that we've in the process of getting a grant from New York State for the large capital projects of the underwater drilling. Is that process almost complete, or do you know when that will be determined?
James, I'll get that. We submitted applications for the 2021 Water Improvement Infrastructure Act. We submitted 2 applications, one for the crossings under Shinnecock and Shinnecock, the bridge and the canal, we call them. And then a second application went in for the Plant 4 iron plant.
Do you know the date? Is there a scheduled award date?
They haven't published a scheduled award date. They went in the Friday before Thanksgiving. So that would be somewhere around the 21st, 20 something of November. We haven't heard anything statewide about any awards or any even indication of when it's coming out. So no, and they don't usually, they usually wait till a grand event to let everybody know. So I'm not sure when we're going to find out. But as soon as they release it, we'll let all parties know. I think the first person we'll find out is probably Jay. So
okay, I'll be bugging him then.
Anybody else have anything before I move forward? Okay. Along with everything else going on, we also, every year for water conservation, we send out letters to our top 10 residential and our top 10 commercial users, just to basically make them aware that they reached that point. They reached the top 10. Sometimes some customers don't know. They just pay the bill and that's it. So this is a good thing to show the DEC about water conservation, and also to alert our water consumers that, hey, something might be going on. 90% of the time, they do know what's going on. Like this year, 3 customers called and said, yeah, I filled my swimming pool. Yeah, I had a leak in the service line. I had my sprinklers were running 24/7 and so forth. But actually, one of the big ones was on North Road, which is the east side of the canal, which is one of the problematic areas. They're actually going to put a well in for their sprinklers because they were number 4 on the residential user. So they actually called us up and said they apologize for using so much water, and they go ahead and told us that they're going to sink a well to use for their sprinklers. So that takes the demand off our system during that those peak hours, which is a very small window between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. It's only 4 hours out of a 24-hour period where we reach our peak. So anything like that is good to hear, that people are actually being aware of the usage and taking steps to mediate that issue and try to go other avenues. We encourage other avenues to try odd, even watering days. We send out letters every year requesting that. We put it in their bills. But we're capped at that suggestion point. We can't go any further than just suggesting. But what we also implement to try to skew people from using so much water is a tiered billing system. We did that, I believe we implemented that 2 years ago, where if they go over a certain amount of usage, they go into a different tier. And then if they go over that certain amount of usage, they go into another tier. So it's a 3-tiered system. You're guaranteed to pay one price up to a certain amount, and then you're guaranteed to pay another price over that amount. And then the third one obviously will carry up until their usage is over. But we've seen that's helped out a lot because a lot of people call and wonder why their bills are so high. And we kindly explain to them, usually it's in the summertime, 99.9% of the time, and it's irrigation usage. It has become more popular than it has in the last 10 to 15 years, especially during the COVID pandemic. A lot of people paid attention to their manicured lawns and their nice plantings, and they dumped a lot of water on the ground for those things. Rightfully so, it's a God-given right to do, but we also have a job to conserve our water table. So we've taken tremendous steps with the help of UN, God bless you, with trying to implement a better water conservation policy. And I think it's probably one of the best that we've had here in a long time. And we're going to keep on top of the water conservation because we want, in our 10-year capital project plan, we have to put another well in at some point. And if we have all these steps implemented to try to conserve water, it goes well with the DEC to try to apply for a permit. Any questions on water conservation?
So the tiered system, it's sort of it's an incentive to not use so much water, right? So as you get up to tier 2 or tier 3, your price doesn't go down because you're using more. Your price actually goes up, right?
Right. Yes. Yeah, and it gets substantially high if some of our customers use 23,000 cubic feet in a billing cycle. It gets pretty substantial, and they call up and say, oh my God. But we kindly explain, we break it down for them, and after every phone call, they completely understand, and they try to do their best. Sometimes their sprinklers get turned on and then never get serviced throughout the year, and then the guy comes back and winterizes them. So throughout that time, a lot of things can happen with the sprinkler system, whether it's a broken head or the timer goes wonky or something like that. So we try to encourage them to have it maybe mid-season service just to go make sure everything is working fine. I also offer my services to the customers. I did sprinklers for 15 years. I know a lot about them. So if they ever have an issue where they can't get their sprinkler guy, not to take away from him, but I can also come and just suggest things that they can do for themselves to try to lower their bill a little bit.
Okay, let's move on then to the next topic.
I believe it was I think on here is the directional drill. So I'll kind of let Chris and John take over the directional drills, where the status of it is, and expected start date.
Good thing, John, I got this?
Sure.
Okay. So in terms of the drills, as you're all aware, the projects were awarded in a town resolution adopted on January 25th. Internally, we've reached out to both the contractors to give them notice of award and request that they begin to prepare their documents for contract signing. We've been in contact with the town. They're currently working on drafting the contracts and scheduling with the contractors for those contract signings. In regards to the Shinnecock Bay crossing, we have approval from all regulatory agencies currently. So once we get that contract signed, we've already been in contact with the contractor. They're preparing their submittals so that they can get those in immediately upon contract signing, so we can get going on getting that work done. For the Shinnecock Canal, we have the Health Department and Army Corps approval currently. We are still awaiting, John, I believe it's the easement from Suffolk County Parks, correct? In order to submit for DEC?
Yeah, in order to work in and run main in Mashut Beach, we need Suffolk County Parks permission to work, and then we need an easement from them in going forward to have a main on their property. I know Jim Burke had been working with the, and I forget the guy's name, who is the park commissioner for Suffolk County.
Parks commissioner, yeah.
And
Jason Megan. I've been speaking with Jason on this.
Yeah, so I believe they're close to a solution, but until we get that one's kind of on hold.
And then, I think that covers both of them.
What's the hold up there? Does anybody know with the Parks Department?
I've been speaking with Jason about it, trying to and with Nick Gibbons, Mr. Supervisor, and I'm working also with our town trustees on an issue that's kind of involves all three parties. So we're looking to resolve that. I don't want to say much more on that.
Is it something I can help with?
Yeah, perhaps. Yeah. We can talk. Let's talk off record on this. We can, later on.
Well, because I mean, the canal crossing, we want to use the same directional drill. We want to do one mobilization, right? We've already bid it, right?
Yeah,
we bid it, but we ended up getting two separate contractors. That's what worked out best monetarily.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That sort of goes against everything we thought.
That goes 100% against everything we thought.
We're trying to do these two projects at the same time to lower the cost by having one single mobilization. All right, so we have two different contractors.
Yep.
Okay. Now, only the one, the Shinnecock Bay is the one that we're under the gun, so to speak, with the health department. The canal crossing is something we're doing sort of on our own initiative to improve water pressure on the east side of the canal. So, all right, I'm happy to see if I can break through the logjam, whatever it is. So,
yep.
Chris, as far as the underground crossing for Shinnecock Bay, how long do you anticipate that project to take? And I'm not trying to nail you down, but generally speaking.
Yeah, no, understood. It's hard to say because it basically from the contract signing and notice of to proceed, which will immediately get out once the contracts are executed. I believe the contractor has a 150-day term of completion, which in speaking with them is what they're anticipating needing because it's such a long drill. I've explained to them kind of the whole situation. They're aware of it. They've said that they will do everything they can to beat that 150 days, but they do think they're going to need that just due to the length of the drill and the lead time on getting some equipment. So,
right. And this, of course, includes either side.
Sorry, you cut out for a second.
This, of course, includes the connections on either side of the subaqueous.
Correct.
Yeah.
In terms of that March 2022 deadline, which is fast approaching, maybe this question for John, but I'm assuming the health department's not going to penalize us because we're not finished by March 22. It sounds like we're going to be finished, I don't know, 150 days from now. So that's
so once contracts are signed and I have a schedule from the contractor, which is hopefully within the next week, I think we put together a letter to the health department explaining the schedule, the delays, and giving them a drop dead date of when we'll actually be done. And I would hope that would satisfy them to see that we're actually doing the work and, we're not saying we're going to do it. So whether that letter comes from me or the town, we can talk about, but I think we need to put something together to them just to kind of let them know where we are.
okay. And do you foresee, I mean, it sounds like it won't be done until maybe August or September. So are there going to be any issues through the summertime with the operation, either at the Ed Warner Senior Pier in that park area or on the other side? There's by the Coast Guard station, there's also another little public access area. So
I hope we're done before the summer, beach crowd picks up. So, I mean, there will be some disturbance on the Coast Guard side where we're going to have to mobilize and do some work. Maybe that road that leads down to the, there's like a little side road right next to the bridge. I think it's maybe the old bridge. Yeah. We'll probably end up taking that over for storage. And then on the other end, the south end, the Dune Road end, we'll just need a little stage. We'll need a staging area within the parking lot. But other than that, people should still be able to access. Still be able to access the pier and the parking lot and all the amenities down there. We'll need a little area off to the parking area up top to do our work.
So in terms of, you thought it would be done by summertime. Didn't you say the contractor needed 150 days?
That's what the contract says, yeah.
So that's 5 months, and they haven't started yet. So
July 4th or July something is the drop dead date.
So if they start in March, April, May, June, July, potentially end of July. You're saying July 4th?
Well, whatever the 5 months from the day. So if we started March 4th, it's March, April, May, June, July 4th, yeah. But that would include all restoration and everything too. So.
I get August 4th. I don't know. If they start on March 4th, so
August 4th, yes, sir. I
all right. I
counted the same finger twice.
I just want to make sure we have realistic expectations. So,
Mm-hmm.
So there may be some work going on in the summertime, but it sounds like it's manageable. People, it might be interesting for people to actually see a piece of equipment like that in action. I just, I don't know if there's any noise impacts or anything else that we should be mindful of.
It's just normal, I would say, construction noise. There's no hammering. There's no impact noises. And then when the machine is down there, I would encourage everybody to go visit it. It's a great piece of technology where everything's automatic and all the rods are threaded and screwed. So I'm not going to say there's no noise, but there's no like impact noising of hammering or anything like that.
So there's not going to be like people sensing a vibration like an earthquake or anything like that?
Mm. No, it doesn't hammer in, it augers in. So it spins and there's a head on the head of the drill rod that'll lead the way. And it's only a 4-inch head, and it'll make the first initial hole by augering through it. And then they pump out the dirt that they're augering through it with a bentonite solution. And so there is no impact noise.
So the pipe is a 4-inch pipe. Is that wide enough?
No. The pipe ultimately is a 12-inch inner diameter, which is, probably close to 16-inch outer diameter. The initial auger that they throw under the canal is about a 4-inch head with a 2-inch rod, and then they do something called back reaming, where they pull another auger back to make the hole a little bigger, and then pull another auger back to make the hole a little bigger, and then finally they pull the pipe through. So it's a 3 or 4 stage process.
Okay.
So my question, John, and I've actually been involved in directional drilling in an odd way underwater through oil industry contract. One of the big problems that we kept running into constantly, particularly with drilling underwater and into substrate, was the sludge that's returned from the pipe and the management of that sludge, how it's dewatered. You've got a solution in there as well that can't be just directly dewatered. So it's a big job there, and I'm sure the DEC has something to say about that at that point. So, what are those discussions with DEC? And I can't imagine that this will, even 150 days is, to me, it sounds like a short time. So I'm just concerned. Well, not concerned, but just if you could elaborate a little bit on, particularly on the sludge and solution management.
Well, the DEC already gave their approval, and one of their stipulations was that we had to be 20 or 25 feet below
25 feet below the surface of the bay, yeah.
The bottom of the bay or the surface of the bay. So we're quite deep. So between our pipe at the lowest point of the bay, we're still going to be, 20 feet below the bottom of the bay. One of the reasons we do that is that it helps to prevent the fracking of the bentonite solution, which is when the bentonite leaves the hole and shoots upward. So since we're so deep, that's why we're so deep, is to prevent that. And that will contain the bentonite in the receiving and the launching pits on either side. That bentonite is then pumped out and hauled off. I can get you details about where they haul it off to, but the bentonite is just a clay solution. It's, I'm sure it has some polymers and stuff in there to keep it flowing. I would have to get you more detail about how they dispose of it and where they dispose of it and what's in it. But it's not a hazardous chemical that they're using to slurry in this pipe. Not in the method we're using.
Yeah, if you could send that to me, I'd appreciate that. Thanks, John.
John, did you say you worked for the oil industry? I thought you were like Mr. Renewables.
Well, I was 22 years old, and it was a job that, and it was one of the reasons I changed the course in my life, actually, being exposed to some of the procedures. All so right. I hear them, and I get, I relived those moments. So
I wasn't going to let that one go by, though. Sorry. All right.
Yeah, that's all right. We all have to make a living.
That is true. All right. So any other questions on the directional drilling? All right, let's move on to the other topic. Then I want to get to the public, though I really don't see anybody on the Zoom call from the public other than, town staff members. So, but we'll double check anyway when we get there. Let's move on to PFAS issues.
Okay, so we had our carbon exchange completed last year at our main plant. Our 2 vessels were cleaned out, carbon was hauled away, and we had new carbon installed. And since then, the vessels ran shortly thereafter for about a month and were completely non-detect going out the system, meaning that there was no PFC detection in our water. Piggyback off that, we also had detections in August of 2020 at plant number 3. We had a 40 parts detection, and that was shortly after the state lowered the mandate down to 10. So what we had to do was apply for, which H2M did on our behalf, was a deferral to the state to not become in violation, and kind of develop, a course of action plan to, if need be, remediate and remove these chemicals, or what we will do to make sure we maintain lower than the 10. The numbers, I believe John has that outline. He'll go into that in a little bit more specific, but we never breached that 10. We remained below, even through the peak demand, and putting a lot of work on those wells at plant number 3. 3.1 remained our non-detect well, but 3.2 and 3.3 did have detections, but below. We utilized a system called blending, where we take all 3 wells, run them at the same time, not in sequence, but 3.1 would be our lead, 3.3 would be the second on, and then obviously 3.2 was our third on, and the point of distribution remained low or non-detect of PFCs. I'll let John go a little bit more into the deferral and where we stand now. But we had a phone conversation with Josh Mednick of the New York State Board of Health Services, and he updated us on what the state is going to make us do, or if we might lose that deferral. So I'll kick it to John.
So our deferral at Plant 3 was for a year. It expired in August of 2021. We asked for an extension. Haven't heard back from the state, but they're indicating that they're not willing to give the extension for a couple of reasons. One is they feel like our levels are low enough where we don't have to worry so much. And second is, they would have expected us to already have gone towards the construction phase at this point to have something online a little bit more quicker. I'm still pushing for the deferral with the state, at least on 3.2. 3.2 is the well that has, above 50% PFAS, I believe. 3.3 has detections of PFAS. On average, it's around a 3 parts per trillion, while 3.2 is around a 7.5 or an 8 parts per trillion, with 3.1 being non-detect. We are proceeding with the blending. We may have to provide a blending application to the health department, which we can do between me and James, which just locks in 3.2 to 3.1 and 3.3. The other part of the deferral is, they want to see, they're wondering what our status for, preparing plans are, funding the project, and then the next step would be to bidding the project and constructing it. So it's, funding, engineering plans, bidding, and construction. That we don't have on our schedule yet. Like I said, we just have, we did an engineering report, submitted it to the state with our findings, and that's where we stand. So I think it's, yes, sir.
What's really confusing to me on this is we had just one event, I guess, on 3.2 that exceeded, it wasn't even exceeding the levels at that point, because that was 70 parts per trillion at that point. Then they changed it to 10. But we had about 40 parts per trillion on, I think it was 3.2. So
3.3.
3.3.
Yeah.
That could have been just an anomaly. It could have been a problem with the equipment. It could have been, I don't know, a bad taking of the sample, bad methodology. So we were then we've been monitoring it, I think monthly, right? Or something like that, or quarterly.
Mm-hmm.
Monthly.
Which one?
Monthly.
And we haven't seen that problem again. So at what point do they back off and say, you don't have a problem, you don't need to go spend $1 million on granular activated carbon filtration, you're good. Like, I don't even understand why we're still in this system where we're waiting on them to extend a deferral letter. We had one test and it was an anomaly.
We had one test on 3 that was above the MCL. It was at the 40. And yes, we all discussed it, and we agree that, although 3.3 continues to show detections, it's a tenth of what that maximum was. So yeah, I agree with you that it was an anomaly, a lab error, or something. 3.2, on the other hand, continues to show levels, and I think it hit a 9.8, which is just 0.2 parts per trillion below the 10 MCL. 3.2 is the one that we're worrying about, not as much as 3.3 or 3.1. So 3.2 is the one that we're looking at is, do we want to go ahead and, if that does go over a 10, we want something in writing from the health department that says that, as long as we're sending water to system that's blended adequately, that's okay. And the deferral is all the deferral does really is give you a peace of mind, that if, you lose a couple wells and you can still run 3.2. But, I don't think James and I are worried about exceeding the MCL. So if they do pull it, they pull it.
Right. If 3.2 goes above 10, we're going to shut that well down.
Well, we're really not in a position to shut too many wells down, especially in the summer. We use it as a lag well now, so it's the last one that goes on at that site. But even in the summer, if you're running 3.1 and 3.3 and 3.2 all at the same time, we've taken blended samples, and we've never, even on our blended samples, we've never exceeded half of the MCL. So for PFAS or PFOA. So okay. I think that's what our solution was in the report, is to initially to blend, but there is a level of safety and a level of redundancy for James by installing treatment at 3.2 that that you'll never have a problem there.
And I know we hired you guys to do some engineering in terms of how we would approach the issue, not 100% engineering, but just a study, right?
Yes. And
you completed that, and we gave that to the health department?
Yes, sir. We completed it, and the short-term recommendations are to blend 3.2 with 3.1 and 3.3 and send them the system. And then well, there's short, there's long, and there's really long term. Long term, or is to put treatment on 3.2, and eventually 3.3 if levels tend to increase. If we put one treatment system in that's similar to plant 1, we can treat 3.2 and 3.3. Long term, that if 3.1 ever starts showing detections, then we might need a bigger treatment system. But right now it's not. So short term is blending, and then short term plus is treatment for 3.2 if it exceeds.
Right, because we don't have that in our capital program.
Not yet. No, sir.
Is there money available for that? Like, I would say it doesn't hurt to have carbon filtration. If somebody else were paying for it, I would say let's put it in now.
So we do have the Napoli burn on our side for the lawsuit against the AFFF suppliers. I'm not 100% sure where that sits. It was very hot, and then over the last couple months, it's kind of seemed to cool down. So I'm not exactly sure where that sits with the town. Jim might know better than I do, but and then the other thing is there's grants for this stuff, and it's a very, if we were to fail at the grants on the drill and 4, this is open for us to apply for a grant in 2021. But your grant application is stronger by having a funded project. Their EFC who runs it is their thought is, or New York State Health is their thought is that we want to give you money for projects that you're going to do with or without our help. So when you go in there and you say, well, we're funded, we did this to do it, they're more apt to give you funding. And that's what happened on Plant 1. We were already funding it, and they came in and gave us $800,000 for it. So, but yeah, potentially you can get up to $3 million for the project.
Okay, if I can just add also, Plant 3 is also in our master plan for substantial upgrades at the plant. When D&B did their master plan, there was in there to have a single chemical room for each well. Right now, each well has its own chemicals in its building, and they suggested to have a single chemical room for all 3. So there's a lot of upgrades and work that would be done in, I guess, sequence with the carbon filtration if we ever did it. So there is money that has to be allocated for that site already. I think, John, your last number was about $4 million, including everything. And I believe that was roughly 1.2 over what has to be budgeted for that well field anyway. So it's not like the field doesn't need anything. It's not like a surprise. So it has to have some work done. But if, my feeling, and I think H2M's feeling, if we're going to do work at that field, we might as well do it all at once. It's not meant to be done, I believe, within the next 2 to 3 years, because we have some other things that need our attention sooner. But if we're going to look to do projects at that field, we should just keep that in mind, that if we're going to invest, we might as well just go and do it all at once.
Okay.
I think the end is, right now we're okay with the blend. If the levels start detecting up, we're going to need treatment on at least one well. And at that point, we're going to need to determine how we want to fund it, or, and again, if we want to try to get a grant for it next year, it might, behoove us to look into funding now, long term. But we don't know about this stuff. This stuff showed up pretty quickly, and it could disappear. Well, I wouldn't say it's going to disappear. It's known as the forever chemical, so it's going to stay there for a while. It's just hopefully it doesn't migrate to other wells.
Hopefully it starts trending downward. So we're testing every month.
Every month.
Yes.
And is that mandated, or is that something we decided to do? We're
mandated for quarterly. We decided to do monthly.
Okay, and I know we're doing monthly tests elsewhere, like Field 1. And can I just ask, staying on the testing piece of it, is it who's? I know Walter retired, so is it Keith who's doing the testing?
Warren retired, yes. Keith Tuttle Jr. is in.
Total Jew. Okay, and he's had all the training necessary.
Yeah,
Okay.
he has the 1B Waters operator's license, and he's been shadowing Warren for a long time doing the samples, so he knows exactly how the process has to go.
Okay, and we're also continuing to do surveys for lead as well.
Yeah, this year we have to do our 30 lead and copper samples for the Board of Health. We also are working with H2M and developing a lead and copper plan. By 2024, we had to have an inventory list of all our service lines within the district, what the material it is made up of. So I believe it's Melissa of H2M has been working with the building department and ascertaining ages of houses and if they have any material listings of what the service lines are. It's basically looking for any lead service lines, lead goosenecks, anything that's on the outside of the property that feeds them, if it's lead, copper, galvanized, poly, whatever it may be, and then if anybody has anything on the interior of their house that's lead. Over the years, we haven't had any that's known, any of the lead service lines or goosenecks that are mentioned, but now we have to provide proof of that to the by 2024 of each service line that's out there feeding the residential commercial customers. We might go about the way of sending an at-home survey. If people know what they have, then they can simply just tell us what they have and we'll document it. But we're mostly going to be looking at the year of when that house was built, and then if it was ever upgraded to a newer copper or poly service line, and go from there. But yeah, we will be in compliant with the lead and copper rule that's out.
What about 1,4-dioxane? I know we test for that too. Have we seen any occurrences?
No, we've had, I know there was a couple of years back, I'm not really sure the exact date. There was a very small trace of it a long time ago at plant number 2. But since then, we only have to test for it quarterly. There's none of them that we have to test for monthly. We've had non-detect over the last couple of years of that 1,4-dioxane, which is even a worse situation to get into than the PFC situation. So a lot more expensive to treat and remove than it is for PFC. We've seen no detection in any wells.
And let me ask on our pH, where are we supposed to be in that, like, low 7s?
Yes, we've been in the 7s, the 7/8. You know, we're in the range that we're supposed to be, and coincides with our corrosion control, which is the PO4. Is also not just a iron sequestration; it's a corrosion inhibitor. It coats the mains to prevent any type of corrosion. And it's shown in our main breaks and how many we have a year. I just got to do that saying that word because that's a bad juju. But we have very limited breaks throughout the year.
That's good. And we're still using caustic soda. Is that what we're using to raise the pH?
NaOH 25%. Yes.
Okay. All right. Can we, I don't know if there might be other questions related to testing and emerging contaminants and things like that. I wanted to go over, though, a little bit on the billing side. So let me just, on the website, I want to make sure people are aware, and I just want to see what we're doing in terms of automating things, whether it's gauges or automated payments and things like that. So let's just stick with the emerging contaminants and water chemistry. Any other questions on that regard? All right, so let's jump to automation of the system. So I know you guys, we have a website through the town's website, and you guys also have you're able to pay online, right, James?
Yeah, that's through the town's website. But with the online payment, there's a service fee that's charged to the customers. I think it's 3%. I don't know if Len's listening, but he can vouch for that.
Are a lot of people using that system?
Yes, a lot of people are moving towards that, but we still have a lot of customers that come in office. A lot of people like to come and get that receipt stamped and pay in office.
I can't imagine that. I mean, you guys are nice. It's nice to visit there, but I know I pay my water bill to Suffolk County Water Authority. It's all auto pay. I don't want to be bothered. Like, that's what we should have auto pay. People want to register. That's it. They pay, the bill gets paid automatically. That's how things are done. And then you can get a text message on your phone, you know, your bill got paid. But particularly in an era of COVID, now hopefully, you know, things have gotten better with, you know, with the numbers. And, but it just seems as a matter of convenience, you want to lower the traffic. You don't want people to have to get out of their homes and drive there. You know, and if people don't have to stick it in the mail, it would help too. So it's just more work for you guys to have to do it that way. Automation.
Yeah, and the biggest thing was the service charge. People didn't want to pay 3% service charge on top of their.
Len, what are we doing with that service charge? And why do we have a service charge? That's because the credit card processors charge us, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
It's just
it's pretty standard. I mean, if the board chose, I suppose we can absorb that service charge as part of our operation, but that's a board decision.
Well, you'd have to absorb it by probably increasing the rate slightly.
Yeah, so
the expense of paying the credit card company, but
yeah, you know, a lot of the bills there get put on the tax bill too. You know, so it's pretty common for people in that district not to pay their bill, and then we load them onto the tax bill.
No, we don't do that.
The unpaid bills, unpaid portion.
Oh, the water bill? We're putting on the tax bill?
Yeah, it goes a year, and then what you don't pay gets on the tax bill.
I understand that we have that ability to do that, but you know, typically
we could certainly look into eliminating the fee, but it's just that we charge that at other town cash receipt points as well. So
I know, but we can calculate what we'll be paying to the credit card company if we eliminate the fee, and then we can adjust the rate to absorb that.
Yeah, I mean, we've been pretty aggressive on the rates in this district over the past 2-3 years.
I mean, we might already with the adjustments. You know, basically what James was saying is we actually saw a 20% increase. It sounded like in revenue.
Yeah, actually, we were very surprised with the ending operational performance of this district, in that its surplus exceeded our budget by a significant amount, so that we were able to use some of that surplus to offset our borrowing costs.
And also if we get these grants, then our borrowing costs will be lower. So Len, can you just see if we already have the flexibility to eliminate the surcharge?
Sure.
Without having to adjust the rates?
Yeah, if you guys want, I could do that. I don't think that. I think we could do it for the rest of this year and see how it goes. If the board is inclined to do that, that's fine.
And then James, like, that'll save your customers time, right? I know you might miss seeing them over there.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
it helps out because
some will still come in. Some will still come in.
Yeah,
but
we still have our people who want to come in and say hi. But you guys obviously know that we were looking for help in the clerical office because we've been inundated with people coming in, obviously, to pay the bill. And we also got to do field phone calls, and there's a lot of office work that goes on. So if for the ability of maybe to cut the office back, you know, the people coming in half would be substantial for the clerical committee to get the job.
I don't think it's going to reduce your staffing needs. It's just going to lighten some of the workload.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. The people coming into the office, it would lighten that load.
It'll reduce the need to hire somebody else, though. Right.
No, I don't think so. I think we're still going to need 2 people in the office.
No, I mean, that was the normal situation, 2 people. We won't need 3. So.
No.
Yeah, so the board concur that we should try to see if we can eliminate that surcharge for credit card, encourage people to pay online.
Yeah, there is a large contingency that refuses to pay that 3%. I mean, there are quite a few people who enjoy the walk down the road to pay in person, but I think the majority of people would pay online if they could get rid of the fee. So I'm good with that.
Cindy, you okay with that?
Yeah.
John?
Yeah, just a question on that though. The service fee is not just relative to credit cards, correct? It's a service fee for handling the auto charging. Right?
We don't know.
Just for credit payments as opposed to people who want to have direct deposit kind of thing. You're not talking about that, right?
I don't know what you mean direct deposit.
Well, in some service areas, people have set up for work or for payment that money is automatically withdrawn from their accounts, their checking accounts. The fee is different in some cases.
We don't have that yet, right? So I think I
think we should get. I think we should absorb that.
Yeah, John, I hear you. I don't think that our system is currently able to do that. It has to be initiated by the resident to the payment.
So it's purely on a credit basis, and that's what.
Well, so no, they can use a debit card, or they can use other forms, but it has to be initiated from them. I have to look into if we can put it on an auto charge cycle if they agree to something. That's like another whole process. We've never done that before, but I can look into that.
All right. Yeah. I mean, I think we should. I'm in agreement with if we can absorb the 3%.
And it's a lot less work to not have to collect the checks and fill out the deposit slips. You can end up with banking or transposition errors and all kinds of things. Credit cards are so much easier. So I think
there just is a portion of population that don't want to use credit cards. And what the percentage in this case?
A certain percentage of checks won't go through, and then we'll have.
We had issues. We don't like storing people's credit information on our systems. And then I remember that being an issue. That's why when it's initiated by the homeowner on an individual basis, we really don't store that information. It's like a one-time thing.
I still think, Len, that we should explore auto pay.
Okay.
We're running a water utility. We're trying to modernize it. That's a piece of modernizing it. People don't want to be bothered having to log into the website every month to pay their water bill.
Okay, I will look into it.
I bet 50% of them would go on auto pay and trust the district to charge them what they owe. So let's look into it. Obviously, we're government. We have to make sure that the systems are secure. They meet all the, the standards for financial controls. But I think we should explore it.
Okay.
All right. All right. Back to you, I guess, James. So what about the valves? Do we have a program in place to automate the valves? Because right now you actually have to go and hand read everything, right?
Yeah, everything. There is something in the master plan that's something that we're going to put in for next year. That's part of our next year's capital project budget, is to completely upgrade the system to a fully remote system, where there'll be two options. Obviously, we'll get pricing on both. Where there's a system where it's a drive-by metering system where you drive by and it collects the read, and then it comes back here, downloads to the office, and then goes into govern and so forth. Or there's the one where it's remote, fully remote, where everything gets sent to an antenna here and then downloads into the software here at the office and gets sent out. So yeah, right now we take about 4 employees to go out and fully read a cycle. We have 3 cycles, so it's every 3 months. Obviously, we do the billing, but every month we're reading, and the reading system takes about 2 to 3 weeks, depending on weather and other things that we have to take care of here, installing water mains and meters and hydrant repair and so forth. So that would definitely free up. It's costly. I think it's roughly about $2 million or just over $2 million for the system. But in the long run, it's going to save us from having to have our employees out there every single time reading the system, taking 2 to 3 weeks. Four employees, adds up after a long time. So yeah, the meters do work now. They do. The cash registers are open, so to speak. They do tally. Everything's fine. But it takes a lot of man hours and a lot of manpower to get the reading done.
My last question, because we're actually now over the 1 hour point, but you mentioned earlier the need for one more well.
Yes.
Within that 10-year window to deal with volume. Are we exploring, maybe it's a question for John, but are we trying to figure out where that well's gonna go?
Yeah, we always have our eyes open, and we have people in the town such as Janice Shearer, who keeps her eyes open for developments and so on and so forth that are coming in that might be an opportunity. I know James has his eye on a piece of property off of Montauk Highway over by Katrinka's Deli in Hampton Bays. I think the town already owns it. It'd be perfect as, location wise. We just would have to get out there and ascertain water quality via test boring. But yeah, we're always keeping our eyes open. We can't go to the west because we have so many wells to the west. We can't go too far to the east because we don't want to get too close to the canal. Or we can't go further south than Plant 1 because of salt water. So we're looking right in that heart of Hampton Bays right there is what we want.
Well, can we add another well to field 1?
You already have perfluorinateds there.
We got filtration there as well.
You do, and you already have, issues with the chlorides rising. So I'm not sure DEC would allow you to open that to put I would say 90% that the DEC would say no to another well at 1. We tried for another well at 2, and they kind of they were hesitant to give us even that permission. And we ultimately didn't get the permission to put one at 2. I think we want to be looking at a separate site.
A separate site, okay. But somewhere downtown or near downtown.
Yeah, and whether it be a little bit to the west or a little bit to the east would be perfect. But kind of Old Riverhead Road, Montauk Highway, out towards
that area.
Landers Road, stuff like that.
All right. So, any other questions? I still don't see anybody from the public here, but I will ask that question in a second. Councilman Schivoni?
Yeah, it's a suggestion, really, I guess, to the commissioners here. It probably would be, we would all be well served to have a public meeting at the beginning of the summer season where Rich and James and other members of the Hampton Bays Water District, along with the commissioners, and could deliver some of the real successes that this water district has achieved in the past couple of years, what we're working on, what we're looking at in the future, what the finances are. And I think that it would really go a long way in the community to see what's happening with this water district. The last public meetings we had were the capital projects and the bonding. And before that was whether or not to go to Suffolk County Water Authority. And I certainly wouldn't want the public to think that, that's the only reason why we would come to them. I'm sure they don't. But there's a lot of great things happening in this district. And the public, I believe, would be well served hearing it from us.
Great suggestion. James, can you set something up for May or June?
Yeah, I know we tried to do it last year, but then it got all combobulated with COVID. But yeah, we'll definitely shoot for something. That's definitely our goal. Is this public relation PR is definitely our main goal to reinsure. But yeah, I'll look into May and June.
And we'll do. I'm sure we can do it at the senior center there. So.
I just had one quick observation on the wireless metering. I know LIPA has implemented that west to east, and I know that a number of energy companies have actually piggybacked that communication system in order to be able to serve their customers on an as needed basis rather than sort of regular deliveries of different fuels, and also for electrical energy as well. So I would just suggest that you look into that rather than reinventing the whole wheel. You may be able to, on a shared service basis, share that communication system. because that's where a lot of the cost is. Obviously, you have a software cost at your end, but being able to piggyback that communication system that already exists could be beneficial. Just worth looking into.
Really noted.
All right.
Just one other thing before we go. The idea of a public meeting is great, but I just want you to know that James does make the rounds. He's been to our CAC meetings recently and the civic meetings, answering all the public's questions. He will pick up the phone when people call and ask if there's a problem with brown water. And he does make the rounds. If somebody has a complaint, he goes and helps the homeowner figure all that out. So he's very active here. People, are well informed about what he's doing if they choose to ask or, come on the CACs. But a public meeting would be awesome. The last one was well attended, and I look forward to that. Thank you, Tommy John.
Yeah, I think it's a great suggestion. And I have to say, from my perspective, back when we had low pressure and discolored water and emerging contaminants, I also fielded a lot of calls. It's been pretty quiet. So whatever you guys are doing over there, it's working. So keep up the good work. I like it when I'm not getting complaints about water quality in Hampton Bays. And I think when we do this canal crossing and increase the pressure east of the canal, that's going to make a big difference for people. And when we get the Dune Road connection, that's going to really help too. No more dealing with, that broken water main on the bottom of the bay. That was a nightmare, twice nightmare. So, but anyway, all right, so let's go to the public. And I don't think there's anybody from the public on the Zoom call, but I'll just ask if you are watching this meeting of the Hampton Bays Water District Commissioners and have any questions. We're happy to hear your concerns or questions. Just click the raise hand icon.
There are no public attendees.
All right, I'll make a motion to close public portion.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Martell. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, is there any other business, any other questions from any of the commissioners? All right, with that, I'll make a motion then to adjourn. Thank you guys for being on the call. Appreciate all your answers. I'll make a motion to adjourn our meeting.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Schiavone. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned.